Amelia Harrison stood at the expansive window of her corner office, gazing out at the city skyline as the setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. At 48, she had achieved everything she had ever dreamed of professionally. She was the CEO of a successful marketing firm, respected by her peers and admired by her employees. Yet, as she watched the bustling streets below, a familiar emptiness gnawed at her heart. Her manicured fingers absently twisted the wedding band on her left hand, a habit she'd developed over the past year since Richard had left. 23 years of marriage, gone in an instant when he decided that his young secretary was more alluring than the life they had built together. The divorce had been messy, painful, and public. In the corporate world, Amelia maintained her composure, but in the solitude of her penthouse apartment, she often found herself wondering if she'd ever feel whole again. With a sigh, Amelia turned away from the window and gathered her things. It was Friday night, and while most of her employees were probably heading out to bars or restaurants with friends and loved ones, she had a date with a glass of wine and a stack of reports. As she locked her office door, Amelia caught a glimpse of her reflection in the polished surface. Her honey blonde hair was pulled back in a sleek chignon, a few strands framing her face. Time had been kind to her. She still turned heads when she walked into a room, but the fine lines around her eyes told stories of both laughter and tears. The elevator doors opened, and Amelia stepped inside, her stilettos clicking against the marble floor. As the doors began to close, a hand shot out to stop them. "Wait! Hold the elevator, please!" Amelia's finger instinctively pressed the door open button, and a young man rushed in, slightly out of breath. "Thank you," he said, flashing her a grateful smile that momentarily caught her off guard. He was handsome, strikingly so. Tousled dark hair, bright green eyes, and a jawline that could cut glass. Amelia guessed he was in his late 20s or early 30s. She nodded politely and turned her attention to the illuminated floor numbers, acutely aware of his presence beside her. "You're Amelia Harrison, aren't you?" His voice broke the silence, causing her to turn and meet his gaze. "I am," she replied, her tone professional but curious. "And you are?" "Logan Reeves," he said, extending his hand. "I'm new here, just started in the creative department last week." Amelia shook his hand, noting the warmth of his palm against hers. "Welcome to Harrison & Associates, Mr. Reeves. I hope you're finding everything satisfactory so far." Logan's smile widened. "More than satisfactory. It's an honor to work for your company, Miss Harrison. Your reputation in the industry is legendary." The elevator dinged, announcing their arrival at the ground floor. As they stepped out into the lobby, Amelia found herself oddly reluctant to end the conversation. "That's very kind of you to say, Mr. Reeves. I look forward to seeing your contributions to our team." "Please call me Logan," he said, his eyes twinkling. "And I hope I'll have the chance to impress you soon." With that, he gave her a small nod and headed towards the exit, leaving Amelia standing in the lobby, her heart beating just a little faster than usual. She watched him go, allowing herself a moment to appreciate the way his tailored suit hugged his athletic frame. Then, shaking her head slightly, she chided herself for such thoughts. He was an employee, for heaven's sake, and young enough to be her, well, not quite her son, but certainly too young to be entertaining any notions about. As Amelia made her way to the parking garage, she couldn't shake the image of Logan's smile from her mind. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at her that way, with admiration that went beyond professional respect. She told herself it was nothing, just a young man being polite to his new boss. But as she slid into the leather seat of her Audi, she couldn't help but feel a small thrill at the memory of their brief encounter. The weeks that followed saw Amelia throwing herself into her work with renewed vigour. She told herself it was because of the big campaign they were pitching to a potential new client, but deep down, she knew there was another reason for her increased presence around the office. She found herself taking more walks through the creative department, always with a plausible excuse, her eyes scanning the room for a glimpse of dark hair and green eyes. Logan, for his part, seemed to be everywhere. In meetings, his insightful comments and fresh ideas caught her attention. In the break room, he always seemed to be getting coffee at the same time she was. And in the elevator, the elevator rides had become a special kind of torment. Close quarters, shared glances, and conversations that always seemed to end too soon. It was during one of these elevator rides, about a month after their first meeting, that everything changed. They were alone again, the sexual tension between them palpable. "How are you finding the Anderson campaign, Logan?" Amelia asked, trying to keep her tone casual. "Challenging," he admitted, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that made Amelia's stomach flip. "But I think we're close to a breakthrough. Actually, I was wondering if you might have a few minutes to look over some ideas I've been working on." Amelia hesitated. The responsible thing would be to tell him to schedule a meeting through proper channels. But the thought of being alone with him, even in a professional capacity, was too tempting to resist. "Of course," she heard herself say. "Why don't you bring them by my office in about an hour?" The smile Logan gave her was dazzling. "That would be great. Thank you, Amelia." The use of her first name sent a shiver down her spine. When had that started? She couldn't remember giving him permission, but she found she didn't mind at all. An hour later, Amelia's office door opened and Logan entered, a portfolio tucked under his arm. She gestured for him to take a seat across from her desk, but he surprised her by choosing to sit next to her on the small sofa in the corner of the room. "I thought it might be easier to go through these together," he explained, opening the portfolio and spreading out several mock-ups. Amelia nodded, acutely aware of how close they were sitting. As Logan began to explain his ideas, she found herself only half listening, distracted by the warmth of his thigh next to hers and the scent of his cologne. "What do you think?" Logan's question snapped her back to attention. It's very impressive work, Logan," she said, hoping he hadn't noticed her momentary lapse in concentration. "You have a real talent for this." "Thank you," he said softly, his eyes meeting hers. "That means a lot coming from you." They held each other's gaze for a long moment, the air between them charged with unspoken desire. Amelia knew she should look away, should end this dangerous game before it went too far. But she found herself leaning in slightly, her breath catching in her throat as Logan's hand came to rest on her knee. "Amelia," he murmured, his voice low and husky, "I can't stop thinking about you." Her heart raced as she placed her hand over his. "Logan, we can't. I'm your boss and I'm too old for you." He shook his head, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Age is just a number, and right now the only number I care about is how many seconds it will take for me to kiss you if you don't stop me." Amelia knew she should stop him. She knew all the reasons why this was a terrible idea. But as Logan's lips met hers, all those reasons melted away. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, but quickly grew passionate as years of pent-up longing and desire poured out of Amelia. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Amelia's mind was reeling. "We shouldn't have done that," she whispered, even as her body ached for more. Logan's thumb traced her lower lip, his eyes dark with want. "Maybe not, but I don't regret it. Do you?" Amelia closed her eyes, savouring the feeling of his touch. "No," she admitted. "God help me, but I don't." That kiss in Amelia's office marked the beginning of a whirlwind affair that consumed them both. They were careful at work, maintaining a professional facade, but stolen glances and secret smiles became their currency. After hours, they met in discreet locations, upscale hotels, secluded restaurants, and eventually Logan's loft apartment. Their encounters were passionate, intense, and far more emotionally charged than Amelia had anticipated. Logan worshipped her body with a reverence that made her feel young and desirable again. In his arms, she wasn't a divorced CEO struggling with the insecurities of middle age. She was simply a woman, vibrant and alive. But as the weeks turned into months, the reality of their situation began to weigh on Amelia. The secrecy, while thrilling at first, started to feel suffocating. She found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, terrified that someone from the office would see them together and put two and two together. One night, as they lay tangled in the sheets of Logan's bed, Amelia voiced her concerns. "Logan, what are we doing? Where can this possibly go?" He propped himself up on one elbow, his eyes serious as he gazed down at her. "Why does it have to go anywhere? Can't we just enjoy what we have?" Amelia sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "Because I'm not some college girl you can just have a fling with. I have a life, a career, responsibilities. And you have your whole future ahead of you. You should be with someone your own age, someone you can build a life with." Logan's jaw tightened. "Don't do that. Don't make decisions for me or tell me what I should want. I'm a grown man, Amelia. I know what I want, and it's you." "But at what cost?" Amelia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "If this gets out, it could ruin both our careers. The board would have a field day. They'd say I'm having a midlife crisis, that I've lost my edge. And you, God, Logan, they'd say I'm taking advantage of you, that I'm some kind of predator." Logan pulled her into his arms, his lips brushing her forehead. "Let them talk. We haven't done anything wrong. We're two consenting adults who care about each other. Why should anyone else have a say in that?" Amelia wished she could share his optimism, but years of navigating the cutthroat business world had taught her that perception was everything. And the perception of their relationship, should it become public, would be scandalous at best and career-ending at worst. As the days went by, Amelia found herself increasingly torn between her growing feelings for Logan and her fear of the consequences. She threw herself into work, hoping to distance herself emotionally, but it only seemed to drive Logan to pursue her more fervently. Their stolen moments became charged with a desperate intensity, as if both of them sensed that their time together was limited. Amelia tried to memorize every detail. The way Logan's eyes crinkled when he smiled, the feel of his hands on her skin, the sound of his laughter. She knew deep down that she was falling in love with him, and it terrified her. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Amelia was working late, poring over financial reports, when her office door opened. She looked up, startled to see Logan standing there, soaking wet and looking utterly dejected. "Logan, what are you doing here? Is everything okay?" He shook his head, water droplets flying from his hair. "No, everything is not okay. You've been avoiding me for weeks, Amelia. We barely talk at work, you cancel our plans. I feel like I'm losing you and I don't even know why." Amelia's heart clenched at the pain in his voice. She stood, moving around her desk to stand in front of him. "Logan, I'm trying to do what's best for both of us." "Best for us?" He laughed bitterly. "How is pushing me away best for anyone? I love you, Amelia. I'm in love with you. And I think you love me too, but you're too scared to admit it." His words hit her like a physical blow. She'd known, of course, that their feelings were deepening, but hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way she wasn't prepared for. "Logan, please," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. The risks." "I understand perfectly," he interrupted. "You're willing to throw away something amazing because you're afraid of what other people might think. Well, I'm not. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I just want you." Before Amelia could respond, Logan closed the distance between them, capturing her lips in a searing kiss. She melted into him, her resolve crumbling as his arms wrapped around her. They clung to each other desperately, the passion between them threatening to consume them both. When they finally broke apart, both gasping for air, Amelia knew she had to make a decision. She could continue down this path with Logan, consequences be damned, or she could end things now before they got in any deeper. "Logan," she began, her voice shaky. I do love you. God help me, but I do. But love isn't always enough. We live in the real world, and in the real world, relationships like ours don't often end well." He took her face in his hands, his eyes pleading. "Then let's be the exception. We can make this work, Amelia. I know we can. Just give us a chance." Amelia closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. She wanted so badly to believe him, to throw caution to the wind and follow her heart. But the rational part of her brain, the part that had gotten her to where she was in life, screamed at her to be sensible. "I need time," she said finally, opening her eyes to meet his gaze. "Time to think, to figure out if there's any way we can make this work without destroying everything we've both worked so hard for." Logan nodded slowly, disappointment evident in his eyes, but understanding too. "Okay, take all the time you need, but please, Amelia, don't shut me out. I can't bear the thought of losing you." He kissed her once more, softly this time, before turning and walking out of her office. Amelia watched him go, her heart breaking with every step he took. She sank into her chair, buried her face in her hands, and for the first time in years, allowed herself to cry. The next few weeks were agony for Amelia. She threw herself into work with a fervour that alarmed even her most dedicated employees. She stayed late every night, poring over reports and strategizing for upcoming pitches, anything to keep her mind off Logan. For his part, Logan respected her wish for space, but his presence in the office was a constant reminder of what she was trying to deny herself. She caught him watching her in meetings, his eyes filled with a mixture of longing and hurt that made her heart ache. It was during this time that Amelia's best friend and confidant, Sophia, noticed something was off. Over a rare lunch date, she confronted Amelia about her recent behaviour. "All right, spill it," Sophia said, setting down her fork. "You've been acting strange for months now. At first I thought it was just the stress of the divorce finally catching up with you. But this is different. What's going on, Amelia?" Amelia sighed, pushing her salad around her plate. "It's complicated." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "When is it not with you? Come on, we've been friends for 30 years. You can tell me anything." And so, over a bottle of wine that neither of them should have been drinking in the middle of a workday, Amelia confessed everything. She told Sophia about meeting Logan, about their passionate affair, and about the impossible choice she now faced. To her surprise, Sophia didn't judge her. Instead, she listened intently, offering support and asking thoughtful questions. When Amelia finished her story, Sophia reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Oh, honey," she said softly. "You've really got yourself in a pickle this time, haven't you?" Amelia laughed humorously. "That's putting it mildly." Sophia was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. "Can I offer you some advice? Not as your oldest friend, but as someone who's been where you are." Amelia nodded, eager for any guidance that might help her navigate this emotional minefield. Sophia leaned forward, her eyes serious. "Life is too short to let fear dictate your choices. Yes, there are risks involved in pursuing a relationship with Logan, but there are also risks in letting him go. You could lose your job, true, but you could also lose the chance at real happiness, at love. And from where I'm sitting, that seems like a far greater risk." Amelia felt tears welling up in her eyes. "But what about the age difference? What about the fact that he's my employee? People will talk, Sophia. They'll say terrible things." "People will always talk," Sophia said firmly. "They talked when you became the youngest female CEO in the company's history. They talked when Richard left you for his secretary. And you know what? You survived. You thrived even. Because you're Amelia fucking Harrison and you don't let other people's opinions define you." Amelia couldn't help but laugh at her friend's passionate defense. "I wish I had your confidence." "You do," Sophia insisted. "You just need to remember it. Look, I'm not saying it will be easy, but if Logan makes you happy, truly happy, then I think you owe it to yourself to at least try. You deserve love, Amelia. Don't let fear rob you of that." As Amelia left the restaurant, Sophia's words echoed in her mind. She knew her friend was right. She had spent too much of her life worrying about what others thought, about maintaining the perfect image. But at what cost? That night, as she sat in her empty penthouse, Amelia made a decision. She picked up her phone and, before she could talk herself out of it, sent a text to Logan. "Can we talk? My place tomorrow night." The next evening, Amelia paced nervously in her living room, waiting for Logan to arrive. When the doorbell rang, her heart leapt into her throat. She took a deep breath, smoothed down her dress, and went to answer it. Logan stood in the hallway, looking as nervous as she felt. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi," she replied, stepping aside to let him in. "Thank you for coming." They moved to the living room, an awkward silence hanging between them. Finally, Amelia spoke. "Logan, I owe you an apology. I've been unfair to you and to us. I let my fears and insecurities dictate my actions, and in doing so, I hurt you. I'm sorry." Logan's expression softened. "Amelia, you don't have to apologize. I understand why you were scared. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared too." She moved closer to him, taking his hands in hers. "I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few weeks. About us, about what I want, about what really matters in life. And I've realized something." "What's that?" Logan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Amelia looked into his eyes, seeing all the love and hope she felt reflected back at her. "I've realized that I don't want to live my life wondering what if. I don't want to let fear keep me from being happy. I love you, Logan. And if you still want me, if you're willing to face whatever challenges come our way together, then I want to give us a real shot." Logan's face broke into a radiant smile. He pulled Amelia into his arms, holding her tightly. "Of course I still want you. I love you, Amelia. We'll figure this out together, I promise." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's embrace, Amelia felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be obstacles to overcome, judgments to face, and difficult decisions to make. But for the first time in a long time, she felt truly, completely happy. Over the next few months, Amelia and Logan navigated the complexities of their relationship with care and determination. They decided to be open about their relationship at work, meeting with HR to ensure all proper protocols were followed. There were raised eyebrows and whispered comments, of course, but Amelia faced them head-on, her chin held high. To her surprise, many of her colleagues were supportive. Some even confided that they found her relationship inspiring, a reminder that love could be found at any age, in the most unexpected places. There were challenges, of course. The age difference sometimes led to misunderstandings or moments of insecurity. Amelia worried about holding Logan back from experiences he might want to have, while Logan sometimes felt frustrated by Amelia's tendency to mother him. But they worked through these issues with honesty and communication, growing stronger as a couple with each obstacle they overcame. 1 year after that fateful night in Amelia's office, they stood together on the balcony of her penthouse, watching the sun set over the city. Logan's arm was wrapped around her waist, and Amelia leaned into him, feeling content in a way she never thought possible. "Penny for your thoughts?" Logan asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Amelia smiled, turning to face him. "I was just thinking about how much my life has changed in the past year, how much you've changed me." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "Definitely good," Amelia assured him. "You've taught me to be brave, to take risks, to live in the moment. You've shown me that it's never too late to find love, to start over, to reinvent yourself." Logan's eyes shone with emotion. "You've changed me too, you know. You've taught me what it means to truly partner with someone, to support them and be supported in return. You've shown me that age really is just a number, that wisdom and passion aren't mutually exclusive." Amelia reached up, cupping Logan's face in her hands. "I love you, Logan Reeves. Thank you for not giving up on us." "I love you too, Amelia Harrison," Logan replied, leaning down to kiss her. "And I never will." As they stood there, silhouetted against the darkening sky, Amelia reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. It hadn't been easy, and she knew there would be more challenges ahead. But she also knew, with a certainty that came from deep within her soul, that it was all worth it. In Logan's arms, Amelia had found not just love, but a new lease on life. She had rediscovered parts of herself she thought were long gone, her passion, her spontaneity, her ability to dream. And in doing so, she had become not just a better partner, but a better leader, friend, and woman. Their love story might not have been conventional. It might have raised eyebrows and sparked gossip. But as Amelia looked into Logan's eyes, seeing her future reflected there, she knew that she wouldn't change a thing. For in this unexpected, complex, beautiful relationship, she had found something truly precious. A love that defied expectations, transcended age, and promised a future brighter than any she had ever dared to imagine. As the first stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, Amelia and Logan turned to go inside, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future might hold, together.